Okay. I am Kamlesh Bikri sir. Today I am going to teach the figure of speech which came in the poet section in the board examination. Yesterday we have taken 9 figure of speech. Remaining we are taking the figure of speech part 2 metonymy. Metonymy. The meaning of this metonymy, change of the names. It is a figure of speech in which a thing or a concept is not called by its own names but by the names of something or closely associated with the things or a concept. For example, pen is mightier than the sword. Pen is mightier than the sword. This is the one example. Second example of this metonymy, the crown for the king. The crown for the king. These are 2 examples of metonymy, which is change of the names. The pen is very mighty strong than the sword. Then next figure of speech, snake dog. Number 2. Synecdoche. The figure of speech. A part is used to understand the whole, and the whole is used to understand the part. This is the explanation of this synecdoche. This figure of speech. A part is used to understand the part and the whole. The examples of this synecdoche. First example, India won the World Cup after many years. India won the World Cup after many years. After many years. Second example of this synecdoche, ambition should be made of strange stuff. Ambition should be made of strange stuff. Third example, there is a good deal of a fox in his character. This is the example of synecdoche. Then next figure of speech is refrain. Third, refrain means repetition of the lines at the end of the poems. This is an example of refrain. Or in a repetition line as a group of line repeated several times, mainly at the end of the verse in the song called refrain. At the end of the poems, some lines are repeated. This is the example of refrain. For example, I read one example. Water scatter water, stone stops the wine. Water wine stones, wine craves stones, stones cup of water. The last two lines are repeated at the end of the poem. This is an example of refrain. I like the last lines of this figure of speech. Refrain. Stones, stones, cup of water, cup of water, water escapes and is wine. Water escape and is wine, and is wine. This is the last line, which is some words are repeated at the end of the poems. This is an example of refrain. Then next example of figure of speech is hyperbole. Hyperbole. The explanation of this figure of speech: in hyperbole, an idea is exaggerated, and in this hyperbole, an idea is exaggerated. How? See the examples. First example, I have told you. I have told you the same thing, the same thing 10,000 times. Thousands times, the exaggeration statement. Then next example of this hyperbole: 10,000 saw at a glance. 10,000 saw at the glance. This is the next example, third one. All the perfumes, third one. All the perfumes, all the perfumes of Arabia not sweaten, not sweaten this little hand, this little hand. These are all examples of exaggerations. Then next example is a tautology. Tautology means words have similar meanings. In this example of tautology, the words have some similar meanings are used for emphasis. For example, first example of this tautology: 1. She is smart. She is smart, intelligent. intelligent and trained. And these words have same meanings. Then next one is example of figure of speech, irony. Irony. Explanation of this irony. It is in irony, the intended meaning of the words is different than the actual meaning of the words. Once again, in irony, the intended meaning of the words is different than the actual meaning of the words. For example, of irony, the wedding planners. The wedding planners was the wedding planners wedding. The wedding planners wedding was a chaos. Was a chaos. The second example of irony, a very fine frame, a very fine frame you were forsake me in trouble. Me in trouble. This is the two examples of irony. The next example of figure of speech is epigram. Epigram. The explanation of this epigram, it is an apparent contradiction in language which, by causing a temporary shock, draws our attention to same underlying deeper meaning. Example of these epigrams. First one, our antagonist. Our antagonist. Our antagonist, that is enemy, is our helper. Is our helper. This is the contrary sentence. Second example, a favorite. A favorite has no friend. Has no friend. This is the contrary sentence. Antagonist is a helper and favorite has no friend. This is an example of antagonist contradiction sentence. Then next example is example of figure of speech, transferred epithet. Transferred epithet. Epithet means adjective. Explanation of this example of transferred epithet. In this figure of speech, an epithet, that is adjective, which properly belong to the one thing, is transferred to another thing associated with it. First example of this transferred epithet. First one, 3 sleepless. 3 sleepless nights. I passed. Instead of using the adjective for the night, they have given to sleepless. They have changed. Now second one, he was engaged. He was engaged. He was engaged in a dishonest calling. In a dishonest calling. Instead of giving adjective calling, they are used for the dishonest. And third one, Venus shook her doubtful curls. Instead of using the adjective curl, they are given to doubtful. And the next one is onomatopoeia. Last example of figure of speech is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. This onomatopoeia, sound of the words convey the meaning. When you heard the sound, we can convey the meaning of the words. Explanation: this figure occurs when the sound of the word suggests its meaning. For example, buzz, crack, gurgle. The sound itself conveys the meaning of the words. For example of this onomatopoeia, first example is the open window. The open window shuts. With a bang. Bang and shuts convey their meanings. Next example, whoosh. Second example, of the washing machine. Whoosh of the washing machine. Whoosh. The sound itself conveys the meaning of this word. And the third one, the loose house top. The loose house top sheets. Clatter and clang. Clatter and clang. This is the example of onomatopoeia. Thank you. The figure of speech is enclosed and